Thank you for attending this afternoon session. This afternoon session is especially a diplomatic perspective session. And frequently we hear about the Korean reunification from point of view of scholars and media. But this session is a diplomatic perspective, and I think this is a very special one. And first, I would like to introduce our distinguished panel of ambassadors. And Mr. Mark Tokola, Deputy Chief of Mission, U.S. Embassy. And Lee Jung-gyu, Chancellor Institute of Foreign Affairs and National Security, Korea. And Konstantin Vunokov, Ambassador of Russian Federation. Tomasz Golczewski, Ambassador in European Union. Today we will discuss Korea reunification from different international point of views. And first, I think Deputy Chief of Mission from United States, Mark Tokola, will offer your perspective.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be at such a wonderful and important forum and to share the stage with such distinguished colleagues. We're here to talk about an issue that's important not only to the Korean people, but to all of us who are committed to peace and stability in the East Asian region. That topic is, of course, Korean unification. The United States supports unification, achieved through peaceful means in accordance with the desires of the Korean people. Our vision on Korean reunification is part of our vision for shared prosperity and peace in the entire Pacific region. President Obama and President Lee Myung-bak expressed this policy in June 2009 in their joint vision statement for the future of U.S.-Korean relations. Through our alliance, we aim to build a better future for all people on the Korean Peninsula, establishing a durable peace on the peninsula and leading to a peaceful reunification on the principles of free democracy and the market economy. It is important to identify any obstacles that would hinder us from achieving this vision. The proliferation threat caused by North Korea's nuclear program certainly falls into this category. Stephen Bosworth, the U.S. Special Representative for North Korea policy, recently told Congress, North Korea poses an enduring challenge not only to U.S. interests, but to those of all nations in the region. North Korea is a pole of instability in the heart of what is arguably the most important economic region in the world today. North Korea's role as a proliferator of nuclear weapons makes it a major threat to American and other norms. If we believe that peaceful unification on the Korean Peninsula means greater prosperity, greater stability, and greater opportunity for all nations, it's essential we work together to resolve the issue of North Korea's behavior. As global stakeholders and neighbors in this region, we must work to bring an end to the conflict and division on the Korean Peninsula. To reach this goal, the United States is committed to strengthening existing alliances and to forming new strategic partnerships. China is a vital strategic partner with an important role due to its influence with North Korea. At the beginning of this year, President Obama and Chinese President Hu Jintao signed a joint statement expressing concern over North Korea's claimed uranium enrichment program and opposition to all activities inconsistent with the 2005 joint statement. The U.S. and China recently reaffirmed this position during the last round of U.S.-China strategic and economic dialogue, which we held in Washington this past May. During that dialogue, the United States and China had frank and productive discussions on the way forward on North Korea, and we reconfirmed our shared commitment to the peaceful denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Over the years, it has sometimes been suggested that the United States is actually opposed to unification, that somehow we benefit from a divided Korea. That is simply not true. Division was a tragedy. The U.S. fully supports the peaceful unification of the Korean Peninsula according to the wishes of the Korean people. The The United States does not have a hostile policy toward the people of North Korea. We desire to help the DPRK to abide by its own commitments to give up its nuclear weapons and to improve the living standards of its own people by taking steps to improve its economy. We want to help offer solutions. As we look forward, the United States will continue to make clear that there is a peaceful and constructive path available to North Korea. Secretary Clinton reaffirmed this during the December 2010 trilateral meetings with Korea and Japan. Afterwards, she and her counterparts spoke with one voice in affirming that we are open to dialogue with Pyongyang. As we combat transnational threats, such as nuclear proliferation, piracy, and terrorism, it's essential that nations develop a strong network of multilateral ties. No one nation can resolve these problems on its own. That is why the U.S. and Korea, together with Japan, China, and Russia, established a six-party framework. The issues pose a daunting challenge to us all, but the six-party dialogue not only serves to address the North Korean nuclear program, it has the potential to lay the groundwork for institutionalized regional security cooperation in the future. Therefore, the United States will continue close coordination and consultation with our allies and partners for an earlier resumption of the six-party talks. We do not believe it would be productive to resume talks, however, until North Korea demonstrates that it is committed to dialogue and is serious about honoring its own denuclearization commitments. We are not interested in meaningless negotiations. The DPRK is responsible to show seriousness of purpose, as President Obama has said, in which it is prepared for negotiations to be constructive. We sincerely hope that North Korea will take concrete steps to improve North-South relations and will demonstrate clearly a change in behavior so that we can all return to the six-party talks. Last year was marked, as you all know, by a series of provocative actions by the DPRK. We want to see an end to those actions. We want to see them take steps towards irreversible denuclearization. Pyongyang needs to comply with the commitments it has already undertaken in 2005. These are not new demands. We have many allies and partners who share the common goal of peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. From strengthening old alliances, as is the case with our ever-growing alliance with the Republic of Korea, to shaping new relationships with emerging powers, as is the case with China, to establishing a regional architecture of multilateral relationships, the United States is deeply committed to building a prosperous and secure future with its neighbors across the Pacific and Asia. The United States is a Pacific as well as an Atlantic nation. We welcome the increasing global emphasis on the Pacific region, of which we are a part. The United States will continue to be patient, consistent, and determined in its policies, and committed to working together with our partners now and in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Tokola. But let me ask one question. And when do you expect the six-party talk will reopen again? And can you expect that?
I can't give you the date or the hour quite yet. I actually believe there have been some signs in the last week or two that we may be closer to resuming than we were before, but we're not there yet.
Okay, thank you so much. And next, we'll hear from Lee Jung-gyu, Chancellor.
Thank you very much. Let me first make some clarification before speaking my opinion. Professor Lee Gun, who was a panelist at the previous session, said that the reunification in Korea is not regarded as natural anymore in Korea, but I don't agree with him on that point. Of course, it is very certain the number of people who are in favor of early reunification at whatever cost is much smaller than before. But this does not automatically mean that reunification is not regarded as natural in Korea. I personally believe that reunification in Korea is accepted as natural still. But people is not very much willing to pay the cost than before. That is the change. we may assume that if there is any politician who dare to say, I'm not in favor of reunification, do you think that he can survive? No, I don't think so. Yes, there is a result of poll that the number of Korean people who think that reunification is a very important task for us. The percentage was only 56% in 2005. But since then, it is increasing. Last year, 2010, the percentage was remarkably high, 84.8%. And the problem is young generation. Young generation is much less interested in reunification. But, the percentage of young generation who are interested in reunification is increasing also. It was only 57% in 2007, but it increased to 63.2% in 2009. In achieving the goal of reunification in Korean Peninsula, it is very important for us to get the support of our neighboring countries. All the governments of our neighboring countries are saying that they are supporting reunification of Korean Peninsula. But we are not certain that if they are supporting very willingly or not. The task before us is to persuade all the neighboring governments that reunification of Korean Peninsula would be very much beneficial for them too, not only to the people of Korea. Now, let me speak to you that what would be the very much positive aspects of Korean reunification. First, unified Korea as a peaceful nuclear-free nation. A unified Korea envisions becoming an advanced democratic country which guarantees freedom, welfare, and human dignity to all its nationals. A unified Korea envisions becoming a model country for green growth by achieving so-called green unification of the Korean Peninsula. Also aimed at a global country that is comparable to the G8 in size, linking the continent and surrounding oceans. And a peaceful, nuclear-free country which contributes to global security and prosperity. Especially the status of a unified Korea as a peaceful, nuclear-free country which does not pose a threat to its neighboring countries. And at the same time, dramatic experiences that a unified Korea is expected to undergo. For example, democratization, economic development, and the reunification process itself are going to make significant contributions to global prosperity and development. Second, overcoming the division between South and North Korea, which seems to be very difficult. Overcoming the South-North division of the Korean Peninsula will contribute to ensuring security and peace, not only in the region, but in the entire globe as well. We should admit that a striking gap between South and North is often referred to as a national tragedy. There still remains a humanitarian issue, such as dispersed families and prisoners of war, even after close to 60 years have passed since the end of the Korean War. Unification of the Korean Peninsula will provide an ultimate solution for this national tragedy. Thirdly, new growth engine. Unification can be seen as the Korean government's new vision aimed at bringing together people's energy, or considered as a new growth engine. Peaceful unification of the Korean Peninsula can provide a new frontier for Korea. To overcome the geographical division and function as a linkage between the continent and the oceans. And also to secure new growth engine with its economy of scale, because reunified Korea in Peninsula would be much bigger in size in its economy. Also to resolve the Korean discount phenomenon and enhance the value of national brands. And also to secure a market of 80 million consumers and overcome the geographical division. An extensive development of North Korea will offer a new way out for further growth of the Korean companies. The Goldman Sachs, as you remember, released in September 2009, projected that a united Korea could overtake Germany and possibly Japan in 30 to 40 years in terms of gross domestic product, assuming that the unification process will take place in a gradual manner. Fourth, expanding the role of the global governance. Reunification of Korea will provide a stepping stone for Korea's participation in global governance in the era of globalization. Also, a unified Korea will emerge as a middle power with a population of 80 million people. And I hope that the unified Korea will actively participate in global governance as a country that matches the average of the G8 or permanent members of the UN Security Council, even though still